So, starting with this thing, Uday, let me open up this thing. So, Uday, what's your thought on, because you have done your MBA from a prestigious college like FMS Delhi. So, what's your call? What's your say? Now you have been working with Reckitt Benckiser for almost 6 months, more than 6 months. What's your feel that what's is there a big difference from being a sales and marketing student in a B school and then a marketing executive in a top-notch company? What's the difference you feel, or is there a similarity? I guess we have lost our guest. Uday, can you hear me? If there's some network problem, he's just going to join again. I've got the confirmation from Uday. There's some network problem on his side. He's just joining in again. Just stay.
Hello.
Yeah,
Hi, sorry.
yeah, no
Network.
problem, no problem. I can understand. Uh, so Uday, I'm just repeating my question. So
Yeah.
we I've been to the B school, and all the students are there in the B school. You have been to the B school. We all study so many subjects like consumer behavior, marketing management, and so many subjects. कितनी relevance है यार real market में from your side? I want to know.
So these are highly relevant. That being said, sir, that is up to a point. So, for example, when we launch a new product, when we
Yeah,
think about launch,
your video is not visible.
yeah, just a second.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Now done.
Yeah. So when we plan on launching a new product, there are a few things that we do systematically to bring it to market. So, for example, the first thing that we start with is consumer immersions. We try to talk to our consumers and we try to figure out what is their need regarding cleaning at this point of time, what is their needs, what are their needs regarding disinfecting at this point of time. Like you've seen, the scenario has changed since COVID started. So along with that, consumer needs have also changed. So when we look towards launching a new product in a new category, for example, disinfectants, so we go to the consumers and we talk to them regarding what are the problems that they are facing since COVID had started. What are the problems that they are facing in disinfecting their homes, disinfecting their belongings, or etc. etc. Right.
Yeah, yeah.
But like when we are asked to go and talk to them, so this is something that we have not done before ever. This is an only opportunity that you get when you're working as a sales or marketing executive in particularly a fast-moving consumer goods company. At this point of time, our understanding of consumer behavior, our understanding of marketing research, these things come into play, and basis that only we are able to navigate our path. For example, when recently I got to date consumer immersions. So there's always a very strict timeline. It's not like the consumer can answer our questions indefinitely. And so there's a limited time graph. So the consumer is there with us on a video. So these days, everything is
Yeah.
virtual. So they join a video call with us, and we are free to ask them any questions related to the topic that we have given them already. So within these 30 minutes, we have to take some insights out of them as to how we can better service them with our products, or is there any need for a new product that they might be looking for, but they already do not realize. Right? So the line of questioning has to be very much on point. Like I said, the time is limited. The consumer, you have to first of all make that consumer comfortable so that he or she is able to share his or her point of view with you. And we try to get their routine, what they do on a daily basis when it comes to cleaning. And then so on and so forth, we progress. But this is something that you wouldn't really know if you haven't done marketing research in your B school. Again, so once we're done with the consumer immersion, we go back to it and we try to analyze it from the lens of a marketer, right? So then this place is something where consumer behavior kicks in. Now we have talked to the consumers, we know their pain points, we have the entire recording with us. We analyze and reanalyze that recording in order to find that insight that will help me configure my product basis his or her needs, or that will help me find a gap in his needs or her needs, which I can fill with my new product. So as long as I do not understand consumer behavior, I will not be able to figure out any insight from that consumer immersion that I just did. So from what I've personally experienced, all these are interlinked, and so some of my peers who might not have majored in marketing, but in sales, who have also joined along with me. So they sometimes face this problem, and then they have to go back to their syllabus or go back to those books, go back to Kotler and
Yeah.
Jack Trout and Alright, and then they have to grasp all those things and come back. And when they look at it after a new understanding that they've just received from reading those books or talking to their teachers, then they find that they have a new perspective altogether.
That's great, Uday. Continuing with this, Uday. There's one thing we all commit some mistake or other mistake when we are staying in B school and other thing. So something which you wish to share and something which you wish to give the gyan to the students, those who are going to be in the market pretty soon, कि हम normally क्या क्या गलतियां करते हैं और which नहीं करनी चाहिए और which you feel that this should be taken care of when you are staying in the college itself.
So one thing from my experience would be like I've done BTech. So that course is a 4-year course, right? And there's a lot of time. So even if we commit a few mistakes, it's never holded against us. In that long period of time, we can undo those things and we can relearn, unlearn, so on and so
Yeah.
forth. But MBA is basically a very fast-paced course, and we have mistakes that we do with there don't leave us so easily. So for me, the thing was that in first year when I joined, so there is definitely that goes along with it, and very soon I realized that I felt complacent, and just being there was enough for me, and then there was not much that I wanted to do after that. So this sense of complacency, this sense of uh, like I have achieved something and now that is it sort of a behavior. So now what happened was when I realized that there are a lot of things that I have missed on, there are a lot of lectures that I have missed on, there are a lot of opportunities that I have let me pass by, be it in terms of a winter internship, be it in terms of a live project, which I thought that I didn't need it because my CV was strong enough for any company to hire me. So when I realized, the main problem that I faced was the time had already passed because it is such a fast-paced course, and it is very difficult for you to go back and correct all those things. So this is something that I'd like all of you to consider because once you have been through it, it's very difficult to go back to that project opportunity that just passed you by or that internship that you didn't do while you were free. So these sort of things you cannot just go back and do like in a graduation case we could, but here it's just one shot. You only get one shot, be it in a placement process or whatever. So just make sure that you are prepared to make that count.
Thanks, Uday. Uday, continuing, last time when we were talking, you were talking about a particular product that you were working on. There's some secrecy over there also. Don't share some important information. You can hide those information. But I wish that if you can share some things, you are work on a new product development project. So you can share some light on that project, the students how.
Sure. So I'll just share my screen. There's a
Yeah.
very small presentation that I have. Just just let me know when you can see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is the
No,
product
still
that we'll be.
1 minute. 1 minute, Uday.
Yeah, sure.
Is it visible with everyone? Because I'm not able to see it.
Yes,
We
sir,
can
it
see
is
it, sir.
You can see it.
visible.
Okay, just hold on. Yeah, Uday, continue. Now we can see it.
I'll just reshare the presentation. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
everyone was able to see.
yeah. It's visible now. You can continue.
Yeah. So this is a product the product in question is this one. This is yet to reach the market. You will be able to see this product in near your nearest Kirana store or supermarket or hypermarket in January, mid-January around. So I'll just try to give you the context as to how we went along launching such a product and what are the things that go behind the curtain. Right. So this is just a summary that I have prepared for you all. It contains a lot of things that are very inherent and necessary for a new product launch process from a organizational perspective. I'm sure you would have read the NPT thing in theory, and that is a major part of it. Now, this part is how our organizations these days go about it. So the first thing that you see over here, which is concept testing. So, like we just discussed, whenever we feel that there is a need from consumer side, we go and we test different concepts with them as to if we are talking about disinfecting, then we go to them with different concepts. For example, a product that will help you disinfectant your home surfaces. Then a product that might help you disinfect your soft surfaces, for example, your parcels that you're receiving, your currency notes, etc., etc. So there are different concepts for a simple one product as well. So for this product that you've seen over here, they would have developed four or five concepts as to what this product should deliver, how this product should look like, what should this product be talking about, what should this product be helping the consumers about. So these are all concepts, and we test them with the consumers. And basis the consumer's response, we choose the best concept that we should go ahead with. Now the subsequent stages are a bit technical. This is formula development as to how we should develop our formula. So everything that you are seeing over here, This might not be directly related to sales or marketing, but yet it is a job of the brand manager or the marketing manager to get all of these things done. A marketing manager in a project works with multiple stakeholders, be it the research and development team, the packaging team, the procurement team, the sales team. So there are different stakeholders, but it is ultimately the responsibility of the marketing manager to get in touch with all of them, update them on the project requirements and deliverables, and then get the work done at the end of the day. Uh, this thing over here, which is product design criteria. This thing very specifically talks about how the product should look like. What are the claims that we want on our product? For example, if you'll see over here, the basic claim that you'll see is kills germs and viruses.
Mhm.
Now, if you're aware about the products, disinfectant products, especially which are in market these days, for example, Savlon has a disinfectant spray. Dettol also has a disinfectant spray, aerosol disinfectant sprays. So all these products have claims on them. You'll see that Savlon would say that their spray kills rotavirus and it's effective against bacteria and viruses. It's 99.99% effective. So all these
Yeah.
things are claims. Uh, the race today is to get the best claim possible for your product.
Mhm.
And to be honest, the best claim today would be kills coronavirus, right? So we try to get the best product design criteria for every product that we are making. Now all these things are interconnected. As long as you have a suitable formula that is efficient, you can get the best you cannot get a claim that your product will deal with coronavirus. Now, this is a risk scorecard. The risk scorecard basically contains the risk that you're taking on various dimensions. For example, your claims even. So, if my product is saying that it kills virus and bacteria, how risky is that to take ahead? For example, how sure are we with that particular fact? So, we go to different labs, we get our product tested and certified, and basis that we create a risk scorecard which tells us how efficient, how good our product is across various dimensions. Now you'll see over here the main component over here is consumer testing. So like we said, we go to the consumers a lot of times while we are in the NPD stage. We went to the consumers for the first time when we were in the concept testing phase to recognize what is their need, what is their preference, how would they like a disinfectant product to look like. Now, once we have the product with us, a brief, so it won't be in the final stage, but we have a usable product with us. So we'll take it again to the consumers, and we'll do different types of testing. For example, you see over here consumer trials. We'll give the product to them for a week, and after a week we'll go back to them and then figure out if they liked it or not, or what are the things that they really liked, or is there any problem that they faced while using the product. Then there's sensory testing as to how does it appeal to their different senses, as in smell. Do they like the smell of the product? Do they like the feel of the product after they've disinfected a surface from it? And again, we try to think of different concepts at this stage as well, as to if consumers. So this is something which is very interesting. When we give these products to consumers, consumers come back to us sometimes with uses that we might not have thought about that particular product in the first place itself. So, for example, there is this Dettol antiseptic liquid that comes into the market. I think most of you would have used it at some point in time. We use it to dress our cuts and wounds. So this is the basic idea that company had in mind while launching Dettol antiseptic liquid. But when consumers tried it and tested it, then they came back to us and they told that they're also using it to disinfect their laundry. They're also using it to with their floor cleaner as an addition to disinfect their house floor. So consumers do tell us a lot, and basis that we adjust our understanding of the product, and we take it to the market accordingly. This is something that is artwork development. So all the posters that you would see regarding the product, all the images. So if you go to an e-commerce page of any disinfectant spray, you'll see that there are a lot of images. There's a good enough description, pictorial description. All these come under artwork development. Now again, as a marketing manager, it is your job totally to design that artwork, to design those images. What do you want to show? What kind of messaging do you want to give out? How do you want the consumer to perceive it? uh, Everything is under your control. You have to design that particular artwork, which will go on various places. So newspaper ads will also use that artwork, e-commerce listing will also use that artwork. So this basically falls under artwork development. So while a marketing manager has resources, for example, he or she will not be directly designing the artwork per se, making them in that whatever software they uses. But you have to guide that particular person. You will get the resource, you will get a designer, but then he or she will only draw what you want them to draw. And the message has to be simple as well as effective. So this is something. For people who are good at simplifying things, this is something to really look forward to. Uh, then once we're done with all these things, then it comes to the trial phase, wherein there are a lot of trials that the product go through. So we want to be 100% sure that it is safe for our consumers to use. It is safe for us to ship that product with us. So while this is getting manufactured in our factories, this will then go to the CFAs, and from CFAs it will go to the retailers, and from retailers it will go to the consumers. So that is a long enough journey, and hence, as you see over here, transit trial. So we do a transit trial wherein we ship this product from a huge distance, for example, from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, and then we'll see if the packaging hold, if there is any leakage, if there is any gullage. All these things are noted, and if everything holds, then only we'll take it to the next stage, which is commercialization, in which we start mass producing the product and shipping it to the various business partners, which will be our distributors, our CFAs, our wholesalers, etc. So, in a nutshell, this is not in much detail, because obviously there are a few things which I cannot share, but a general idea of an NPD launch process in a fast-moving consumer goods company.
That's good, Uday. Uday, there's one question.
Now to give you,
Yeah, acha. Continue. You
sure,
continue.
sure, sure.
Then only we will ask the questions.
Fine, fine, fine. We'll take it. We'll take it towards the end.
Yeah.
Anyhow, this is the last slide that I want to show. So again, we're talking a lot about consumers. So the basic thing is that in a company, for example, if we take an FMCG company, so there are different departments. Like in a general organization, there is research and development, there is sales, there is HR, there is packaging, there is procurement, right? So all these departments have their own objectives, and those objectives are nowhere related to the consumer. So sales have to clock a particular number, annual number. R&D has to come up with the new product suggestions. They also have a number. Packaging has to take care of sourcing all the packaging and then delivering it, so on and so forth. But there is only one department in the organization, which is marketing, which is solely responsible for consumer experience. And how we call it is basically they are the consumer champions. So any meeting wherein all the departments are there, a marketing guy or a girl will always be representing the consumer. So while finance might say that we need to price this product at a premium to get that profitability that we are looking for, but then a marketing manager would say that this is not a price point that my consumers will feel comfortable buying this product at. So everywhere you go, you're just advocating the consumers, and that is basically the foremost job of a marketing manager. Now, like we were talking about disinfectants category, so this is how we usually go about it. As you can see over here, there are two graphs, which is surface disinfectant versus surface cleaner, and this is disinfectant liquid versus disinfectant spray. And the green curve that you're looking over here is for surface disinfectant. So this graph shows you that after COVID struck, this is pre-COVID, which is February. Surface disinfectant was not in much demand by the consumers. This is consumer interest over time. And surface cleaners were much more preferred. Surface cleaners like Colin, etc. But then just after COVID, has skyrocketed. And similarly here, the demand for surface disinfectant spray has skyrocketed. So these are the changes from consumer end that we try to acknowledge. And once we have acknowledged this change, then obviously it becomes easier for us to figure out that disinfectant spray is something that the consumers are readily looking for. And surface disinfectant is a category that is seeing large amount of involvement. And this data, by the way, is very publicly available. These are just Google Trend charts. So you can also look them out if you're a Google Trend user. And then it makes life a hell lot of easier.
Okay. Okay. Uh, Thanks, Uday. Thanks for such a insight. For such an insight. Uday, there are two, three questions from my side. I was pretty interested in knowing
Sure,
those
sure, sure.
things. There's one thing. This product which you were working on, this was conceptualized during the COVID era, or it was in the pipeline even before COVID itself?
Sorry, a network issue again. I was not able to catch you, sir. You might
Okay, I
let
was
me repeat.
asking that the product which you were talking about this new product, so this was conceptualized during the COVID era itself, or it was in the pipeline earlier also?
No. During COVID, when COVID started, only after that, sir. So since RB is a multinational corporation, so we
Mhm.
already have this sort of a product in Middle East and United Kingdom, but
Okay.
we don't have any such product in India. So while we have the capability to do it in a short period of time, but the Indian variant, so we always change the formula from geography to geography. What are the Indian consumers looking for? Basis that will change the formula, and then we'll provide those claims to those consumers.
Okay.
So the ideation itself was done after COVID because we realized that the demand is going to soar, and a lot of consumers, in fact, reached out to us through our consumer support channels. So there's this insight that we got during consumer immersions that consumers were actually putting in Dettol and in a spray bottle and then using it to disinfect in their house, matlab homes during lockdown. So then it made a lot of sense to launch such a product.
That's good. Okay, Uday, I'm now opening up the session for the students also, so they can directly ask the question. So, students, if you are having any questions regarding whatever Uday has shared, you can now ask the questions from Uday directly, one by one. Yeah, anyone. Yeah,
Sir,
continue, Vinod.
during this lockdown, how can you meet those customers for experiment your products, sir? Like lockdown, you can't meet people. So how you get feedback from the people?
Yeah, I have not. So again, companies like these have like we are doing this class on a virtual platform. So we have agencies who schedule our consumer immersions. So these agencies are in touch with the people who actually use our products, and then they schedule these immersions with them, and then we get on a video call with them, and for a specific period of time, and then we can ask them our questions, and so it is arranged in such a manner. So while the ideal way usually would have been meeting them in person and observing their routine and their behavior, but since it is not possible, so we have switched to a virtual mode, which is getting on a video call and asking them our questions directly.
Is it okay, Vinod? Uh, Uday, there's one question which I wish to ask from you. So you must be working directly under your seniors who have worked before COVID also. So this calls and getting involved with
Yeah.
with your test market. So do they feel that the efficiency has gone down, or the effectiveness have gone down, or it's gone up, or it has remained the same? Because you people are interacting with the customers through virtual mode. So what is their experience, your seniors experience? What are they
Mm.
saying?
From their point of view, sir, what I've got to know is that obviously there's a disconnect between them and the market. So how we usually did it was in person always. Whenever we are going for a consumer immersion or for any other activity as well, talking to our distributors, talking to our retailers, we always like to do it in the in-person environment. Because when you are at a distributor's place, when you are at a retailer shop, you can obviously see how your product is stocked, what is the visibility, what is the share of shelf, all those things. Again, for consumer immersions, while this virtual mode is a way that we have figured out to move ahead. But then again, the ideal way was to observe these consumers while they are using our products or other products as well. So while they were doing that particular core chores, and now how we do it is we directly ask them, bombard them with our questions.
Mhm.
So that makes it a little difficult for the consumers as well, because at times they're not MBAs, they're not people who understand consumer behavior and the line of questioning, right? So at times it becomes difficult because they in fact are not able to understand what we're trying to ask. And earlier it was much simpler because we could just observe and figure it out ourselves. So such things are there, but I'd not say that productivity has decreased a lot. It's always the way. So we have figured out different ways to continue. It's the same everywhere. So while we feel that this is not the ideal way, but this is still working for us.
That's good. Just hold on. Yeah. Okay. There. One more question, Uday. You were talking about risk scorecard. So those scorecard are actually industry defined, or is your company defined only?
No, no. So they're company defined only. So for example, I give my R&D team a list of claims that I want to show on my product. For example, I'll say that I want to show kills coronavirus. I also want to show effective against bacteria. I also want to show that it kills norovirus, and it's so all these things are claims one by one. So now my R&D team will give me a risk scorecard pertaining every claim that I have given them. So they'll tell me that showing that this product kills coronavirus is 90% risky because my product is not suitable for that. My formula is not suitable for that. So they are only 10% sure that it will kill coronavirus. 90% of the times it won't. So in that case, I will not go ahead with that claim. Similarly, for killing bacteria and viruses, if they tell me that it's 99.9% sure that it kills viruses and bacteria, then I'll obviously go ahead with that thing. So this is basically how this scorecard functions.
That's good. Anyone else who wish to ask question?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
sir. I
I
would
have
like.
one.
1 minute. 1 minute. 1 minute.
Okay, Aditi, you go first.
Aditi, you continue with the first.
Uh, okay, thank you, sir. First of all, warm welcome to you, this sir. So my question for you is that how do you keep a track on the competitive market? Because if marketing is good, then even a small simple idea can be a boom. And if marketing is not that best at its best, then a great idea can come to to lose. So, how do you look upon the competition that you face in the market, and also how you cope up with the same? Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Aditi. This is a really good question. So when we launch a new product, for example, the product that we were just talking about, right? So before, in the early stages itself, we go to the market and we try to figure out what all similar products are already there. For example, Savlon might have a same disinfectant spray. Dabur had same disinfectant spray. Godrej had the same product. So all these products are already there, right? And then we list all their specifics. We list their MRP, we list their grammage, we list what they are communicating through their products, we list their claims. Everything is documented. Now we come back and we try to look at them. There is a thin line between competition tracking and becoming a Me Too thing. So while I do not want my product to be a Me Too product, for example, I don't want my product to be just similar to Savlon spray. I want it to be different so that I can position it as something which is the niche in the category, or basically a category leader. So while I have all the details of the competition, my team and I will try to figure out how we can differentiate our product. What else can we do? So, for example, for this particular product, there is a unique claim on this product which says that it is suitable to use on food contact surfaces, like your kitchen slab, etc. So other disinfectant sprays like Savlon, Dabur, etc. cannot be used on your kitchen surfaces because they are not safe for that. If they anyhow come in contact with your hand, or somehow they get into your internal system, so that can be damaging. So we figured out this loophole which was there, and then we tried to change our formulation, and similarly we got that claim. And now we communicate our product primarily as a disinfectant, which is for your use for disinfecting your kitchen, for your dining table, and all those surfaces which you come in contact with on a daily basis. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, Ankit, you were, I guess, Ankit, or yeah,
Yes, sir.
you continue with that.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so first of all, good morning, sir. So my question was quite similar with Aditi. Like we know that Dettol is a company that is very demanding in market. Like we opt for Dettol rather than some other companies first. So, sir, what are the pressures that a company undergoes launching a product, of course, in this which is so essential in this pandemic? After these days, like we have seen Savlon coming with their disinfectant spray and other products that you have said. So what are the pressures that a company undergoes to developing a product? Like it's a long process that you have showed us in the your previous presentation. So it's a long process, it takes time, but does a company undergoes a certain pressure launching a product after this time, like it's so late to coming into the
Understood.
launching
Yeah.
a product, yeah, launching a product this late, so that the other companies have grasped the market as well. So I wanted to ask that only. Yeah.
Understood, Ankit. Always comes between maintaining a specific standard of quality, or wishing to compromise with it to get that particular speed that you require to go to market, right? So if we are willing to let go of a few things, like we talked about transit trial, and we talked about manufacturing trial, and we talked about going back to the consumers and showing them our products, and figuring out what is their response. So these are all the things which are not necessary, and a lot of companies don't do them either. So these are not some things which are mandated by the government or any other agency that you really have to do. So if we want to launch that product in a very short interval of time, we can obviously get rid of all these steps and just do the necessary ones, and we can bring it to market within a month or so. But if we go ahead with such a process, it'll be based on our intuition only, our gut feeling that this is a product that consumers need and this is a product that consumers will like. And with no backing whatsoever in terms of data, in terms of consumer feedback, in terms of our own trials that we do. So while RB has taken a stand to not let go of any such processes and to do it the way we used to do it, so that we deliver the highest quality product, and we're not hanging in a to figure out a brand new product that will go with our products when we are very sure with them. And these are very sensitive products as well, Ankit. Matlab, if you look at it, it's a disinfectant. And if used improperly or made improperly, it can very well harm our consumers. So one such incident, and the entire reputation of the brand is tarnished. So we take special care of that. And yes, we lose sometimes when it comes to the tag of category creator. Savlon might have released their product soon or faster than us, but then it's all about prioritizing. So we are prioritizing quality over speed.
Okay, yeah, fine, sir.
I hope it answers your question,
Yeah, yeah,
Ankit.
yeah, pretty well. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Anyone else wish to ask the question?
So can I ask again?
Yeah, yeah. Continue.
Yes, sir. So, sir, as you were saying that it is all about prioritizing the product and the need and the pressure, everything, right? One thing that we always learn in marketing is that we always do SWOT analysis. Okay, like what are the opportunities or threats that our product or our company can come up to? Why, even in the marketing phase, I think. In December or January of 2018 and then 2019, sorry, 2020 and 2019, we were able to got familiar with the terms coronavirus and everything. So, did the company understood the need of such products at very initial stage or very afterwards? Because again, I think that undergoing such processes comes with a huge responsibility because at first we don't have a complete knowledge of what exactly is the situation out there, and yes, again, we don't have a clear
Yeah.
picture of what is going to happen. So, did company do SWOT analysis on on a off? They do it oftenly, or it is something that after it is being observed and seen, and then for sake of competition, things are taken forward to.
Understood, understood. So, to give you an idea, have you seen that disinfectant spray, either of Dettol or Savlon, or used any of that?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, the Dettol variant, which is the Dettol disinfectant spray, that was launched in I think November last year in 2019. So, at that point of time, there was no news about coronavirus, right? At least not in mainstream media. So this the company strategy is such that we obviously look for the long term, and while I'm not sure if so SWOT analysis is something that we learn in college when we get into an organization. While the approach remains the same, they name it differently. So every organization has their own way of strategizing and figuring out what they need to do. While they might be doing something similar to SWOT analysis, but it's not exactly the same. So what I want to emphasize here is every year they meet all the international leaders and thinkers. They meet at one particular place, and then they discuss what are the new product opportunities that we are looking at. This is where the world is going. So this was their early insight into the fact that hygiene is becoming more and more relevant. Health and hygiene is becoming more and more relevant. Used to disinfect your hardness of surfaces at your home, in your vehicle, everywhere, etc. So they had the insight when COVID hadn't really come up on a world stage, and this product was actually launched in India, and like I said, November. So I think it's their view is not myopic. So while COVID has struck, they have launched various other products to complement their previous range. But that doesn't really mean that they didn't have these products in the first place. So Savlon has then copied the Dettol disinfectant spray and launched their own version when COVID started. So it depends on company to company. From my own understanding, there are different strategies that these companies follow. As a company, as a company, they have the strategy to be the second best in every category that they operate in. So they don't really want to lead that particular category, but they realize that the market size is large enough for them to be the second best, and the amount of revenue that they'll be generating from being the second best brand in that particular category is huge, and they're okay with that. So if you'll see the products by ITC, House of ITC, you'll figure out that in whatever category they are always the second or the third best. But that's a company strategy. So whenever they see that there is a product in any particular category that is doing well, they will launch their own variant of it. So while they are not the category creators, they are very good at relaunching those products with their own brand names, and then capturing a good chunk of the market. So these strategies are different. For Reckitt Benckiser, it's always the category creator. So as long as you don't have a product that can create a new category, they're very sure that they are not going to launch it. And again, they're very sure about the fact that they do not want to copy any other product which is actually there in the market and launch their own variant. So this goes. There are sometimes some exceptions, but these are basically the broad strategies of these two companies.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Uh, Anyone else who wish to ask question? Okay, till then, Uday, there's one question from my side again. When we are talking about consumer testing, so the consumers are chosen on the there is a randomly basis, or there is some profile which you keep in mind and then.
No, no. Yes, exactly. So there are these third-party companies that we work with, which they're basically the link between us and the consumer. So that organization, that research and consumer behavior organization, they schedule these consumer immersions basis the information that we give them. For example, if I'm looking to do a consumer immersion for the product Jasmine, that I want to interview consumers who are, if my main target consumer is female, so I'll give them female. I'll also give them a age band as to from 20 to 35 or 40. And I'll also give them their socio-economic classification. If we are looking at SEC A and B only, then I'll give them that specifically from these two strata of the society. I want women who are in their early 20s and at max early 40s. And then it depends on me. I can give them as many constraints as I like. So I'll also tell them that I want to interview only those people who are actually using products to disinfect their homes as of now. So it might be any product, but this also has to be a filter. So basis that they go to their so all these research companies have their own databases of people that they have onboarded for such purposes, and then they try to figure out who are the people that are meeting my needs, and then accordingly they schedule these consumer immersions with them.
Okay, that's great. Thanks Uday for that thing also. Anyone else who wish to ask question? Any question regarding your regarding CV, regarding new product, regarding things which you feel you can get it from Uday? Anyone? Okay. I guess there are no questions from the audience side then. Yeah. So then, more or less, I guess the students must have got a very good idea, and I must say it was a pretty good explanation given from your side, and an insight given by you, a person who has been involved with a new product development. It's going to actually help them, because the student normally what we are teaching them only through the books, what books are telling them and other things. But you people are actually those who are actually implementing those things on the field, and it gives a real insight, and they can actually feel things. So if when we are talking about new product development, so when your product is going to be in the market, these students can now understand how the new NPD works, and this product they have a fair idea about
Yeah.
how that has been done. So thanks a lot, Uday, for giving your time to the students, and helping them in getting some clarification over various topics. And we are looking forward to invite you again in future whenever you are going to have time, because we have time, but you people are pretty busy with your hectic schedule. So we will be looking forward for your again when you are going to work on a new product, so that we can have a brief on that thing from you. So it was again warm thanks from the whole Doon Business School family, and the students, especially
Definitely.
from the student side. I must say they must have enjoyed this lecture, and if they're going to have any questions, I will take it from them and I will forward those questions to you. Okay, Uday? Okay. Yeah,
Definitely, sir. Thank you everyone for having me over. It was a really nice session, and
okay.
I look forward to
Thanks,
meeting you
Uday.
guys again.
We'll meet again. Bye.